Oh no, there's two more. Hey, Jeremy.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, it's an intense day, but really good. The sessions that I've been in have been great.
hmm I had to
So
take.
no, I've never heard from Laird, so I think it's just you and me.
Okay. Well, and Anne is going to be coming from APS.
Oh, excellent. That's good.
hmm
Let's see. All right, I'm putting the note sheet on my other screen.
I added links in
Oh, yes,
our
in our
document
notes
to the
document.
yeah.
Well, I hope people come. I hope they're not all tuckered out.
I took the last session off so I could have a little time to eat dinner.
Yeah, well, I ate lunch, so
hmm
yeah. Hey, Lee, you're standing out beside the freeway, are you?
Oh, I think that was Death Valley or something. I can't remember where that was.
Really, that's
No,
beautiful.
it's not Death Valley. Too many trees there.
I was gonna say I've never seen Death Valley with that many flowers, but then I never go at the right time of year.
I got there once and saw it with lots of flowers.
Yeah. So I'm having a moment here. Unfortunately, I'm not finding the sheet of paper that I have our plan for the session on. Maybe it's in here.
Colleen, I just shared the Google Doc version with you if you didn't have it
Great.
on hand.
The notes that we took about what we were planning to do.
Yeah.
Okay. You shared it to my email address?
The chat.
Oh, shared it to the chat. Thanks. Thank you. Yes, thank you. No, I have it written on a piece of paper and it's in a safe place. You know how that goes?
Oh yeah.
Oh, and there it is.
So I had a question about when the recordings would be available. I had to miss this morning.
I think that my guess is going to be that recordings will be available probably Monday because we're all of us who are doing recording have many obligations during the day. And to transfer those recordings is going to be a project. We have to figure out how we're going to post them because none of us have that much storage in our Google Drive. So we need to probably put them in Dropbox or possibly convert them to YouTube videos. We haven't even talked about it yet, but the folders for all the sessions are already available to you, and lots of good notes and things are in those folders. Session recordings, I have not yet heard where we're going to store those, and so look for them. Well, look for a listserv post about them for sure when they become available, but maybe look for that information to be happening Monday or Tuesday. All right, how are we doing? Do we start at 3:15? We start at 3:15, right, Jeremy?
Yes.
So we can just talk amongst ourselves. Lee, how's retirement?
Let's unmute myself here. I don't know. Well, it turns out I actually qualify for unemployment, so
Isn't that crazy?
that's crazy. But anyway, I guess it's COVID-19.
Yes.
So, looking around, thinking about subbing and tutoring. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next year, but got some irons in the fire here and there.
Cool.
Enjoying this hot weather in the Central Valley.
Yeah, it's actually not that hot today. It's only 88.
Oh, I think down here it's a little hotter, but anyway.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know. If my Apple Watch says it, it must be so.
Oh, right. Okay, must be. Yeah, it says it's 88 here, I guess, so not that different.
Yeah, it could be worse, but yeah,
Right.
it definitely a different slice of life than you're accustomed to.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? I will, let's see, find the slide that is for our session and put it up on the screen. Let me put that in present mode and then share that screen so that as people arrive, they will know that they are in the right place. Bam. Are you seeing that now?
Looks good.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and move this screen down to my main screen because I don't know, because I like it better down here where I can see what you guys are seeing on, doggone it. Sorry. Present. And back to Zoom, share my screen. All right, and then we do that. Okay, that's sort of what I was thinking.
Hey, Colleen.
Yes.
This is the other Colleen.
Oh, hi, Colleen. Look at that.
Just so you know, I am one of the lead Step Up ambassadors for Step Up. So if you have any questions, I feel like I'm in a position that can help out too. So
Awesome. I am so glad you have stepped up because I'm not a Step Up ambassador. I have been a member of Step Up since I went to a workshop a couple of years ago, and a fan of the idea, being a woman in physics and being the only one for a long time in my community and being a little marginalized or excluded. I would, maybe excluded is the word. I'm not sure exactly what the right word is. Just maybe excluded is too strong a word. Maybe not included is more like what I'm trying to say. But yes, I'm really glad you are with us. I am looking at my watch and it's 3:15. So welcome to the Step Up session. We thought we were going to be doing this session with Laird Kramer of Florida International University, but he is just dropped out of sight. We can't find him. So Jeremy and I are going to do it ourselves. Right, Jeremy? Because we are stepping up.
We will, although we do have some pretty high-powered people here also. Colleen, who just introduced herself, and Bree Barnett-Dreyfus is here, who is a lead ambassador, and Anne from APS is the project manager. So we've got lots of step-up knowledge here in the room.
That is excellent. That is really good to hear. Just for a little background about why we're having this session, I had a conversation with John Anderson, who is also, I believe, an ambassador, and Laird Kramer. This is probably a month ago, and we were talking about ways that the modeling community and the Step Up community could be working together. We have so many parallel interests. We have so many shared members. Well, how can we formalize some kind of community? And one of the things I talked to Laird about was the fact that, you know, we're already very interested in engaged in conversations about equity, and we're not just physics. And so I'm just going to guess that there might be some folks in the room representing other disciplines, and he said, you know, Step Up is looking to broaden. And so I would say that broadening means we're not just interested in persuading women to be physics teachers, but we're interested in persuading everybody to be science teachers. Is that a correct characterization? Step Up folks?
I can chime in. Hi, Ann Cornerans, APS project manager. Excited to be here. This is the start of our 4th year, and so we're always really excited about partnering with others. Our primary goal and our original funding that we have from NSF is to encourage young women to go into physics majors and then do any of the amazing number of things you can do with a physics degree.
Right.
We're really excited to broaden that in a variety of ways. We have to, for kind of our original funding, stay true to that mission. But the ways that we do that, the ways that we work with teachers and work with people who work with teachers can continue to broaden. So we're excited to hear ways that we can work with AMTA.
Cool. Cool, right. I knew that it wasn't just physics teacher careers, but I don't know. As a teacher, I'm really concerned about the lack of diversity in science teaching, and having been, you know, like the only woman physics teacher in the room for many years, the only woman science teacher at my school. Yeah, I tend to go there when I'm thinking about it. So just some ground rules for discussion, and I've lost my presentation mode, but I'm just going to leave it like this if that's okay with everybody, so that I can see my controls. You've seen this graphic already. There are those of us that talk a lot. We are going to try to be quiet because this is a listening session. We have different perspectives. We want to value those. If you've got evidence about what you're saying, this is the place to present it. Hopefully everybody feels safe. It's okay to be uncomfortable, and speak for yourself and own your impact. All right. Jeremy, we were going to ask people to introduce themselves. Do you think that with 53 participants in the room, that's a possibility?
I think we'd spend our whole time on introductions if we do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to make a little space for anybody who has anything in particular that they want to offer about why Step Up is particularly interesting to them, or something specific that they want to learn about Step Up.
And please don't raise your hands, and just, if you, yeah, just open your mic and speak, because I am going to lose track of the chat. I feel certain.
I'm here because oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if Jeremy had given a preview of the main parts of the program before.
Not yet.
Not yet, not to the modeling community yet, but we will bring that up tonight.
That is on our list of things to do. So, do we want to show the Step Up website?
Sure.
Let me see if I've got that in a tab. I have it in a tab. Where is it? Oh, there's About Step Up. We can start here. How about here for the moment? So, whoops. Let's just go there. All right. This is a Step Up website. As you can see, it's really easy. engage.aps.org/stepup/home. And we can put that, somebody can put that in the chat. Maybe I can.
I just did.
Okay. There's discussion threads and information, and since this is a nonprofit adventure, there's always going to be a donate button. There are multiple ways to get involved. As you can see, there are Step Up ambassadors, several of which are on this call. If you feel good about it, identify yourself. Jeremy's one. And there are some really excellent curriculum resources that are free and downloadable. They're right here. You can get the complete set, or you can get them one at a time. Ambassadors, feel free to chime in. I know of people who have told me that they've done Step Up with the lessons, and then they have done Step Up just with the Everyday Action Guide. And there are differences of opinion about how well it works, but I think the bottom line is that if we're paying attention to our everyday actions and we are paying attention to how students respond to them, then the learning environment in our classroom is different. And we're going to see a difference. Anybody have thoughts about that? Nobody has thoughts. Okay.
I'll chime in, Colleen.
Okay.
I think coming out of if you were in the equity session earlier, if you have not taken a look at the Everyday Actions Guide, it feeds into what we were talking about in there about implicit bias and how your implicit bias can affect what you do in the classroom. And just thinking about the way that you use language. For a long time, I said ladies and gentlemen, until one of my students was brave enough to say, you know, that isn't really the best. So now my students know that I will say, hey, all y'all, and get their attention. Just those little tiny things that it didn't really hit home until I had a student point it out to me. And I think that this Everyday Actions Guide, if you haven't looked at it, is a great start into making your classroom more inclusive.
And actually, speaking
for it.
of the Everyday Actions Guide, something that Colleen and I were talking about doing, and I'm about to put the link into the chat, is an everyday practices survey. Just checking on what do you do on a regular basis? How do you interact with your students? I just put a link in the chat to the Google form. And I think it might be worthwhile if we all just take a few minutes to go through that form, to go through those questions, just a reflection to answer how well do you do each of these different things. And
yes.
you can find a copy of this when you register in the Everyday Actions Guide. But let's all just take a few moments.
Let's just take the survey. Let's take the survey and look at the results. Oh, look, I can take the survey twice.
Can I ask a question about some of the survey questions?
Sure.
Absolutely.
It seems that there's an assumption being made that physics is not expected to be taken by all students. And I know in a lot of districts that is the case, but like in Chicago, they recently made it a graduation requirement. So this year's senior class was the last senior class that'll graduate and not be required to take physics.
Wow.
And I feel like that's something that is changing, particularly in larger districts, because partly I think because of the equity issue in pushing that. And so I was wondering if maybe there should be something like that's an assumption that I feel like is being made. I think it would be interesting to see who, like, I'm going to see every student. Well, me and my colleagues are going to see every student in physics. So I don't know if there's a way to add that or something.
I think Bree wants to speak to that. Did I read you right, Bree?
Yeah, so a lot of the questions are specifically looking at what the actions that teachers can do. So as Jeremy was mentioning, Melissa was mentioning, that this goes with the rest of the everyday actions that have suggestions for actual things that you could be doing tomorrow in your classroom. And so each one of these questions, when it's presented on one page, is kind of meant to see which larger areas are you practicing really well, which sections are maybe things that you might need to work on. So if your community has a required physics first, then all those questions about outreaching to counselors and outreaching to parents, those wouldn't be a focus for you. You'd be able to say, okay, this is something that's out of my control, but the rest of it is really set up for parameters that are usually within the teacher's control or usually within things that the teachers can influence.
Thank you.
Dan, I'm curious, is it physics first that you're doing, or is it physics last?
Chicago, this is my first year in public schools in Chicago, so it's a little
hard to be sure.
Yeah, we had a nice strike at the beginning of the year, and then
oh yeah, that's right.
All this, so it's been an interesting first year in Chicago. But I taught in New York City for a couple of years, and then a couple charters here and stuff. So at my school, I teach mostly juniors, and it's interesting in that we currently only offer the calculus base, APC, and I'm working towards shifting so that we can also offer AP Physics 1, because we do have a group of students that are accelerated that come in. And so I think there's a way to have them just hop into AP Physics 1 and then also get students that aren't going to be capable to take the take the calc based, but to take AP Physics 1 after a traditional, a more traditional intro physics class.
Cool. We have a, if you're going to try physics first, we have an awesome computational modeling physics first workshop that you might check out at some point.
Yeah.
But this is not the place to pitch for that, I guess. I can't resist, sorry.
My school actually, several years under the last principal, shifted from physics first back to the traditional setup, and I don't know why that happened, but.
Sorry, my name's Matt.
Yeah.
And so this will be my, I think, 20th year teaching physics, high school physics, and
Hooray.
So I'm ready to switch some things up. But what I've noticed over my career is that the number of girls that I have taking physics has gone up every year, and I'd say it's pretty much on par with the number of boys. And I teach in Kentucky now. But not everybody takes physics, and the numbers are not equal in any second year course, so any AP course or whatnot. They're not nearly the same. So that's what I've observed.
That's very common, and a lot of the practices you could still be using to advocate for those female students to go on to that higher level, those honors and those AP classes where we know they're not very well represented. So even if you have close to gender parity in the lower levels, there's still more that you can still apply some of that stuff to those upper levels.
So how many of those, since you have an increasing population of girls, do you think that those girls are going on to major in science and engineering careers? Are they motivated, or are they checking a box to get into a good college?
I don't have any empirical evidence about that. I only have my own perception. And I would say that the vast majority of them are checking a box, but that's my perception. What I have noticed is that when I've gotten small increases of girls in AP Physics or something like that, is they often come with a friend, another girl, and that's pretty important. And I haven't always thought about that and what kind of motivating factor and comfort factor that brings to a girl in class, but given recent things, I've been thinking about all kinds of equity issues, and it makes it seemed to have made a big difference for those groups of girls, and they provided all kinds of interesting thoughts and experiences that I often don't get in AP. So it's good.
I remember years ago reading a study about like why is it that there are fewer girls in higher up STEM classes, and one interesting point is that a lot of these girls, and then as they get older, women are good at both their like STEM courses and humanities courses, whereas the boys are taught to just focus on the STEM. So when girls go 50-50, but boys go heavy on STEM, the perception is that it's a smaller percentage of women in STEM. And then it trickles out with the friends leaving and everything. So I also work hard to like push my boys to go a little bit more in the humanities as well, frankly, because they're going to need those skills. But really emphasizing that the culture is neither like masculine nor feminine in STEM classes. It can be both, and same for humanities.
And I think changing the culture of at least how people perceive physics specifically is one of the most important things that we can do. And I feel like the Women in Physics lesson does a really good job of helping get that conversation started on, because we explore, and I love that we take a sort of data-driven approach to it, in seeing like, hey, there's a disparity in percentages of female and non-female students in physics courses specifically. Why might that be? And then we see that in other cultures, they don't have that. Like, this is an issue that's specific to some countries, but not others. And so we can dig into, we could even do some claim evidence reasoning if we wanted to about, is this a biological thing? Because I've certainly had plenty of students who think that it's a biological difference. Is it a biological thing or is it a cultural thing? And we can take an evidence-based approach to seeing this is a cultural thing and we can control changing that, or at least we can start changing that. I can't change everyone's culture. I've tried. Didn't work.
I had a parent come in for a parent-teacher conference about 9 years ago with me. His daughter was struggling, basically because she wasn't doing anything. She was perfectly capable. She just wasn't actually doing any work and turning anything in. And he said, well, she's a girl. They don't really have a mind for math or science. And it was about all I could do not to come across the table at him. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, seriously, this is your own daughter you're talking about, and I can't understand that thinking. I've been trying to do a lot for getting girls involved. I coach a FIRST robotics team, and I've had a very large initiative for the last 4 or 5 years to try to get equal numbers of boys and girls on the team. So I recruit very heavily to try to get females onto the team. We're up to 43% last year, which I was pretty happy with. That's the best we've ever had. So we're still working on that. But encouraging them to go. I think about half of my junior physics, IB physics class is female this year. We started a SWE-NEXT team. I joined the Society of Women Engineers so I can start a SWE-NEXT team or a club at my school. So I'm definitely trying to move the conversation that way. So what can Step Up help me to do more than what I'm doing already?
I'm going to let an ambassador take that.
There are 3 components right now to the Step Up materials. There are, and Colleen, do you mind if I share my screen?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Mine is frozen. My screen is frozen and I can't stop the controls. Can you stop the sharing? Yeah. All I can do is close that computer and yeah, good.
So I'm logged in now to the Step Up website. And when I click on curriculum, I see their lesson materials, the complete set, I think, lets me just download everything as one big batch. But there are 3 things right now. The Careers in Physics is a standalone lesson that you can adapt as you need for your specific environment. There's a Women in Physics lesson, same story as Careers in Physics. You can adapt that as you need for your school. And Everyday Actions. The Everyday Actions Guide involves, there's that survey that we just did, which, and the point of that survey isn't to prove to yourself that you're a good person. The point is to, to reflect on, what areas could I pick up a little bit, that I'm maybe not giving as much attention to. Maybe I never thought about that aspect. I hadn't thought about the need to push counselors nearly as much as I started doing this year. And the self-reflection helped me realize that's something I need to do. The Everyday Actions also, it just involves a lot of reflection and thinking about, how do I interact with my students? And do I interact with one group of students differently than another, maybe subconsciously? And also includes that lovely poster that we've seen at the beginning of, I think, every session I've been in today. But the Careers in Physics lesson, which is the sort of thing that I personally would do early in the school year, but maybe a couple weeks in, because I want my students to feel comfortable with who I am. I want my students to feel like, there's a sense of trust in the room before I do this lesson. But the Careers in Physics lesson, which let's notice up here, there's now a remote teachable version, which some people might find useful sometime soon. But you can download those materials here. And the Careers in Physics lesson is really just about helping our students understand, like, what can you do if you study physics? And like, I've done a poll everywhere with my classes where, they just put something in their phones on a website and it makes a word cloud. And those word clouds are all pretty much the same. What can you do with a physics degree? You can be a physicist, you can be a teacher, you can be an engineer, and you get just variations on those things. And then we work through a lesson on, what are you interested in? What are your values? Because we want to connect to both interests and personal values. And then we can connect the career matching exercise, connects students with their interests and goals and values to real people who have physics degrees. And they learn about, what do those people do with their physics degree? How did their physics degree help them? How did their physics degree help them in the career that they've chosen? And there's a wide variety. And I know that there are folks who are working on expanding right now. There was a call recently for, do you know anyone who has a physics degree? What are they doing? And so students are able to get a broader sense of, what can you do with studying physics? And then we do that same word cloud exercise, and suddenly students are seeing that there's a much broader range of possibilities for what you can do. And then as a follow-up to that, then you can have students sort of create their own career profile, like to help all of our students visualize, how does studying physics help me achieve my personal goals? And I think that's a wonderful lesson that helps my students recognize why they want to care about studying physics, because it's not apparent to all of them. There's also a Women in Physics lesson, which I'm having trouble.
Yeah, I'm on 2 computers and one of them's frozen and this one is really slow. I don't know what the problem is.
I was just having trouble with the screen sharing controls being right where I wanted to access a tab.
Oh, I hear you.
But I'm okay now. The Women in Physics lesson, I mentioned some details about that earlier, about talking through why is it that there are fewer women than men in physics. And somebody I saw in the chat, somebody brought up, are there similar lessons for other underrepresented groups? So just sharing something that I personally do, which is not an official step up thing, but something that works well for me is sometime, maybe a few weeks after we've done the careers in physics lesson, the beginning to the Women in Physics lesson involves Googling famous physicists. And, you know, because Google searches are personalized, everybody gets something slightly different, but more or less you get 10 dead white men. And maybe you get Marie Curie, maybe you get Neil deGrasse Tyson, but it's basically 10 dead white men. And so, you know, I ask my students, what do you notice about what came up in your Google search? And they notice, and depending on who's in the class, you know, sometimes they all notice it's all men. And they all notice that everybody's white, but some classes are more reluctant to say that. And I think, you know, because white people were trained to not talk about race, to pretend that we don't know it's a thing. But, you know, somebody will mention it eventually. And so, okay, this is really interesting. Why is physics full of white men? Because this class is a whole lot of people who aren't white men. We need to talk about this. And so I think that both of these, why is it all men? Why are they all white? Both of these are worthy of their own investigation, their own dialogue. Something that I learned from Bree a little less than a year ago is that it's a better plan to address each of those things separately than to try to tackle them all at once. And so I tell my students, as of last school year, we want to investigate each of these things. So today we'll talk about women in physics, and then a little bit later we'll talk about race. And so that gives me a way in to have dialogue about race that I want to have. And hopefully, and if you were in the equity session earlier today, hopefully a lot of us will want to have those dialogues in our class. And that gave me a way in to talk about race in the context of physics. But with that first lesson, the Women in Physics lesson, then that's how we get that started. And then we go into exploring, hopefully we can all agree in class by the end that this is a cultural thing, and we need to address the culture in this room. We need to address the culture in this school. We need to address the culture in our communities everywhere if we want to make those changes. So that's what Step Up has right now. And yeah, and I'm happy to answer any other questions, and several other ambassadors here would also, I'm sure, be happy. And I've been talking way too long now, so I'm going to stop. And I do see, just as I said, I'm going to stop. I see Melissa put in the chat. We are going to, Melissa Germscheid and I are going to be doing a webinar on October 13th. I think Wendy has already set up signups for that. We're going to do a webinar where we're going to just introduce Step Up, and we're going to work through the Careers in Physics lesson. And just in time for you to, if you need some training on how to do that, just in time for you to do it with your own classes in the fall.
And we're also going to challenge you, you and everyone, please help us spread the word, to do a Step Up lesson by, let's say, the end of October. Try one with your students. Surely there will be a time when you are when you can slide this in, and we're going to put a counter on the website, and we're going to, you know, count up everybody who's done a step up lesson. We want to, you know, we're having a step up-a-thon. We want we want to raise some awareness, and this is something that we can do to raise awareness. And when people see that meter and they weren't at this session, they're going to ask questions, and we're going to let them know. And it's not just for physics, although it is certainly for physics. But, you know, if you're not a physics teacher, do a step up lesson, but make it, you know, customize it to your discipline, and let us know how it goes.
Colleen,
Yes.
if I could interject, I've given these ideas to some of the teachers I've worked with in the past, especially the careers in physics one could be adapted. It would take some work, but it could be adapted to make something along those lines that would work for chemistry or science or biology or astronomy or pretty much any scientific discipline. It's just getting the kids to see someone who has a degree in that, who isn't, my kids all said before that physics teacher was the only thing you could do with a physics degree. So getting them to see the variety of careers out there, and getting them to see that there are a variety of people that work in those jobs.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And Wendy has put the registration link for the Step Up-a-thon in the chat.
So
What else?
Speaking from the general AMTA perspective, I would love to see similar lessons, say for chemistry, where we had a careers in chemistry lesson with chemist profiles and things like that. But I don't know how we organize that and share it with the Step Up community. It might not necessarily have the foundational research that some of the Step Up lessons have. I don't know if there's a way to have sort of a shared resources from teachers, but make it clear maybe it doesn't have the same weight of research behind it.
Well, maybe just some guidance in how the Step Up units were put together would help us. Who knows about that?
And I know Colleen and I, in planning for this, you know, we want some concrete action to come out of today's session. And one thing that we talked about was hoping that we could find some modelers to volunteer from chemistry, from middle school, from biology, find some volunteers to maybe work on adapting that careers lesson to those disciplines. That would be great. And then, you know, some of us AMTA ambassadors could share that with the Step Up community. So we would love for somebody who finds that to be interesting to them to take that on. Let us know. Maybe we can connect you if there are a couple of you who want that. Also, we're looking for getting some commitments of people, like Colleen mentioned, the Step Up-a-thon, where we want to see how many modelers we can get to commit to doing these lessons in their class in the fall. Because, you know, it's one thing in mid-June to say, that sounds great, I'm going to do that. And then the school year starts, there's chaos because it's 2020, and there are 100 other things to worry about, and it slips our minds, and then we think, well, maybe I'll try it next year. But we want to get some commitment to really doing that. And I see Bree wants to speak, so I'm going to let her talk.
Speaking of the chaos of the fall, we actually pushed out a remote version of the Careers in Physics lesson, which is the one that's typically done in the first semester. So that is on the Careers website. So when you open up stepupphysics.org, and then you go to curriculum and you choose careers, at the top it has a link for the remote teaching ones. We're working on a remote version for the women's in physics as well. We hope to publish that in July, so that depending on how long you have to be remote teaching, you can have remote versions of both of those lessons. And most of it's just a list of suggestions of how to tweak it in case you are not in person with your students.
I just put a URL in the chat. It's a really short survey, like maybe 4 questions, asking you to get involved. And maybe getting involved is just going to be committing to doing a lesson in the fall. Just commit to do a lesson. It's not going to, you know, there's no modeling police, there's no step-up police, but there's a community. I mean, and this is a nucleus of that community. So it's not enough to just talk about it. We should act, right?
Absolutely.
So, so I put that URL if you feel like, you know, like, make it a pledge. And, you know, maybe what you would like to do is help us make those biology or chemistry or middle school or earth science or astronomy, whatever units. Yeah, it's a place for you to give us your name, your email, and what you're interested in, how you're interested in participating. But we want to do something. We don't want this to be a one-off.
Yeah, and we've also talked about having maybe a few AMTA happy hours in the winter, just for us to talk about what have we done in our classes with Step Up, what help do we need, what were our successes. I should have said what were our successes before I said what help do we need. But, you know, to talk about our successes and our struggles, and to just, you know, have a community of support to help us work through how to do these things. And like Melissa said in the chat, like the women in physics lesson, just like talking about race, if you're going to do that, it requires some vulnerability and some openness, and opening up your classroom to maybe hearing some things come out of your students' mouths that you don't really want to hear. And, you know, learning how to deal with those things. And so we need a community to support each other if we're going to be as successful as we can be with that. So we want to run some happy hours in the winter to talk through those things and to just provide a network of support for teachers to really do this.
Speaking of which, I had a student, a young woman student, who asked if she could come to this session today. She's 13 years old, and when she heard about this session, she said, I want to come. I want to hear what those teachers are saying. I want to know what they think about this. And at first I thought, great, she should do it. And then I thought, no, I'm going to let her listen to the recording because I don't know. Maybe we would not speak freely with a student in the room. What do you think? Open your mics.
I will speak. I hope we would be honest about it, about speaking with students in the room. I try to be really honest with my students because they need to know that adults are not gonna, you know, sugarcoat things, and they're not, excuse the language, they're not gonna BS. You know, it adds, if we want them to be scientists, we have to demonstrate what good scientists mean, and welcoming them into a group like this would be awesome.
Dang it, I should have brought her.
You should have brought her.
Well, I would say that's kind of my initial reaction, but I also feel like we speak with an academic background, and we use words and terminology that in colloquial speak may mean something very different. And so I would worry about people really misinterpreting us, what some people speak. Even the word racist has a different meaning, I think, amongst people with education than people without, you know, with post-12 education or even K through 12 serious education. Have a much, so I guess I would worry to some degree. We really are professionals. We speak a language that many others don't know. So that would be my concern.
I think about all the podcasts I listen to that give disclaimers like, you might want to preview this material before sharing with someone else. And that gives you the room to think like, oh, so like, hey, student, when you hear someone in this recording talk about this is what they really mean. Like you can preface it then that way. And I think also like there's I don't know what other people's experiences have been with, especially with stereotypes, but I personally feel very conflicted about all the like girl power things and like all this emphasis, all this time and energy that is spent like emphasizing like girls need this and this and that, because it already implicitly says we're starting on unequal footing. And sometimes the younger kids haven't yet realized that on their own. So it sort of enforces the stereotype in a backwards kind of way. And it can just like I saw, I had a colleague who had like a young child that had like a girls can do anything type shirt. And it's like, why wouldn't, and the reaction that some of the other girls that I saw had was like, well, why wouldn't girl, like, why does that need to be stated? Why is it not already an assumption? So it's just kind of weird. And I worry, I don't work with younger kids that much, but I worry sometimes that the wrong message gets sent. And by listening to recordings myself first, and then knowing the kid, then I can make those judgment calls on my own separately. It's just been my personal experience.
So my experience on this is that we absolutely need to have student voice, and we need to include students in the dialogue, but there's like this time place thing that we also have to be careful about. So I think it's really valuable to have panels with students on there, so we give and empower the students. But there are times when the educators are the experts, and they are the ones that need to hash things out amongst themselves. Including students in this type of discussion, I think would change the dynamics of the discussion altogether. And maybe even take away from the focus of the discussion. So I really think that there's time and place issues that we have to consider.
Well, then it's good I didn't bring her. But she had one other observation, and that is, why are you waiting to do this with high school kids? It's too late. You should be paying more attention to middle school kids. So what do you think about that?
Elementary.
I'm thinking, I wanted to sort of respond to some of what Katie said, but also Colleen, it kind of falls in with, there's a lot of just checking implicit bias and thinking about how you address that. And I think that's really more important than sort of speaking to what Katie says about like, yeah, you're basically, by highlighting this thing, you're sort of showing the opposite is what is the expectation. But I worked at, before being at CPS, I worked at a tiny private school that was K through 8. And I worked with all of the different kids. I was mostly with the middle school students, but I worked with all of them. By the time they hit kindergarten, they have a pretty good understanding of what the general societal expectations and biases are, particularly around gender roles and that kind of stuff, because most of them have access to TV. And like children's programming is generally the worst of it. So, you know, if you're really thinking about like, why wait till high school, why wait to middle school, all of these things have to happen much earlier. Because if we're talking particularly sort of honoring their current moment, it really is a systemic nature in which these biases that we have are propagated in our society. And so you are indoctrinated really early. You know, it took me easily my first 5 years of teaching, being a white man in a predominantly minority school, to like be comfortable just addressing some of the things, experiences that my students have had that I haven't had, both as women, but also as like students of people of color. And like, that was just a long period of time because I was never really faced with it. And I resided in white dominated places. And I spent 8 years of my life as a circus performer. So like, I worked with a lot of people with a wide swath of backgrounds, but it's a very different thing when you're in an environment and you are the minority.
Sure. David Bates had his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess somebody raised the question about, you know, is high school too late? And I will just say, as a middle school teacher, you really see clearly what Dan's talking about, by middle school, they're well indoctrinated into what their appropriate roles are in society. And I do agree that high school, well, it's never too late, but I do agree that we should be doing more at the middle school level to lay out a level playing ground and help everybody to feel like they have equal status, but certainly to help the girls realize that they have plenty to offer the field in science.
I can
Agreed.
speak a bit about why we do it at the high school level.
Okay.
In general, at the high school level, although some of you say that this is not the case in your school, but it's 50-50 girls, boys. So girls are taking physics in high school. But when it gets to the university level, it's 50-50 in chemistry, it's 50-50 in biology, but it is 20-80 in college physics classes. So the whole idea of the Step Up program, and the reason that it was funded that way, is to get, if every high school teacher had one girl go into physics majors, it would nix the inequities in the physics community. So that's the reason. And we're not saying that you shouldn't do it at the middle school, because we definitely agree that that's a good place for it as well. But that's the reason behind the focus of these lessons.
One other thing I wanted to add regarding what Katie was saying about, like, we have to be really thoughtful in advance of class about our choice of language, because I think she was on to a really important point, in that we could do unwitting damage if we're speaking about this in a sense of, like, there's something wrong that we need to fix with girls, and we don't want to communicate that at all. And so we have to be really thoughtful and intentional about how we frame that when we speak, so that we're talking about, you know, like, there is something in society, you know, like, because if we look at the data on who is doing physics, women are not represented as well as we feel like they should be. So, you know, something is happening there. Let's explore what's happening that is stopping women from joining or staying in the profession. And we just need to be really careful about how we frame that, so that we don't portray it like there's something that we need to fix about the people, but there's something that we need to fix about the culture.
And I think we need to have frank discussions like this. We also need to be able to, if we hear someone with another teacher saying, I've told teachers, not in front of students, but I've taken teachers aside and said, you know, that's not appropriate what you just did. You know, you pigeonhole. I'm the head of GSA in my school, so I tend to speak a lot to teachers, but about different issues. But, you know, pigeonholing kids is awful. We should never pigeonhole kids. We should never say, oh, you know, you're good at this, do that. You're this, do that. And I tell kids every day, I love science. I tell kids every day, I'm a geek. I'm proud of it. It is who I am. I love, you know, I smile and I get jumpy when I talk about Newton's laws. So, you know, it's if you let them experience the enthusiasm that we all love about our topic, it's infectious. You know, I have two of my graduates, my seniors this year, are going, one's going into engineering and the other one's going into physics in college. I did tell her to take physics 1 and not upper level physics, because we didn't really teach physics this spring.
I'd love to add to that, Elizabeth, and I love your enthusiasm for it. When we start these conversations with the students, they love it, and they continue it, and they bring it up, and they want to learn more about it, and they want to see more graphs and do more studies, and what about this, and what about that. They want to continue the conversation once it gets started. So that's one of the great things about the community that Jeremy was trying to show you how to get into earlier, is that we have this online community with teachers where they're sharing, like, I did the lesson and then my students asked me this great question. So we went and found the paper and we talked about it. We showed the graphs more and we extended it for 2 weeks. We have some teachers that take our women in physics lesson and expand it to 2 weeks of lesson. And it's amazing, but everything is adaptable. We have certain parts that are mentioning, like, this is the part you have to do because we know research tells us this part is where the difference is made. But the rest of it, we want people to be able to customize and grow and expand as your students get more interested in it as well.
I can just piggyback on something Elizabeth said. You know, when you pigeonhole a kid by saying, well, you're really good at, that's also very destructive to the growth mindset that ought to be trying to develop in kids.
Yeah. Especially possibly damaging to girls who tend to be perfectionists, and then the 1 point off freaks them out a little bit more. They think 1 point off, I'm not good at this anymore, then who am I, and go through identity crisis unnecessarily. It's like, ah.
Thank you, Katie.
You know, one thing that hasn't come up today that was a big deal for me when I was teaching high school is parents. I think a lot of a student's identity in high school is already shaped very much by parental expectations or aspirations. I taught at a Catholic girls' high school for 12 years, and the girls that came in as freshmen had parents with expectations that they were going to go to Harvard, Princeton, or Yale. And that's what they were there for. And there's a lot of pressure there. Conversely, I had girls in my class whose parents would say, oh, that's okay, honey. I was never any good at math either, or science. Their moms would say stuff like that, and it would make me crazy. But, you know, is there anything that Step Up has to say to parents, or should have to say to parents?
Bree?
Yeah, we have a couple of things that we've also, the ambassador program is only about a year old. So the research has been going on in its 4th year, but this is the first full year that we've had actual ambassadors trying to go out and help us propagate the lessons that research shows us are beneficial. We've been working on a parent flyer that would share a lot of our big points that we share with the students, and trying to encourage them to, one, have their students enroll in physics, because if they can't take the class, we can't do the lessons, we can't get them to major in it, but then also what the benefits are, because the same as having the conversation with our students where they don't know all the different careers that they can do with a physics major, their parents don't know either. Right. So we find that we have to do the same kind of education with them. We've had a few ambassadors that have gone to like a counseling preview night, and they've presented a portion of the lessons and kind of introduced the program to the parents. And then they've seen, oh, you can do a lot with a physics degree. You should take physics so that that's an option for you. So there's a couple of resources that we're working on, and we're trying to make things as kind of streamlined as possible so that you could go to the website, take the thing, and use the thing, you know, and
Cool.
trying to apply it as much.
We have about 2 minutes left. So, final thoughts, anything you want to leave us with? Don't forget to take that survey and step up. Step up, you models. Oh, you know what? I want to tell you about a great book. It's called Models Behaving Badly. And it's written by a physicist who turned quant. He is a quantitative analyst for Wall Street. So there's a career for you. But yeah, so modeling and a career in physics. I couldn't resist mentioning it. We need some girl to be one of those. So,
Colleen, just on the models behaving badly, there's also a book called what is it? Weapons of Math Destruction.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is also a good one.
Yeah.
Also, the math myth.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. Join us for the virtual happy hour here next. I was a lousy note taker. My other computer failed me miserably. But but everybody hung in and had a great conversation, and it's recorded. So it will be available for posterity one of these days when we figure out where to put our recordings on WebLife.
And I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes if anybody wants to ask any follow-up questions or yell at me or anything else.
No, you were awesome. Thank you all, you Step Up ambassadors. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, and all of you that are not physics folks, thank you especially for coming, because, you know, we all teach kids, right? We don't just teach our science. So there you have it. So what am I going to do about this other computer?
No, we just want to
If I close it, then it will end the meeting. So I can't. It's frozen. I have to wait until we're all done here. Then I can close it.
I see two of you moving, Colleen.
They're both moving now.
I know the camera's working. It's just that I can't use any of the controls on the computer that is actually controlling this session. So I don't know.
Oh, but there's also two Jeremys.
Ain't technology great?
Yeah, but the other Jeremy doesn't have video.
Yeah, and my other Wendy Heyman is feeding his kids. So.
Well, and this is really interesting. Myself is mirror imaged in these two images for me. I don't know whether it is for you, but one of them is left and one of them is right.
No.
No? Okay,
No.
that's just how I see myself then on this computer, is reversed.
Lee, you've had to hear this twice.
What's that?
You've heard the Step Up talk before.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm here, and
I think you were teaching chem last time I presented it.
probably, yeah.
Hmm?
So I'm retiring.
Taking an image from both cameras.
You're not retiring from NCN, just so you know. I mean,
What's that?
You're not retiring from NCN, just so you know.
No, I know that.
See? Okie doke, folks. I am going to shut that other computer. And if it makes the meeting crash, I'm apologizing in advance.
And we'll just go.
Thank you, Jeremy. It rocked.
Thanks for coming, Bree.
Yeah.
I didn't know you'd be here today, but
I was creeping all day, actually.
well, I saw you all day. And then I thought, oh, I hope Bree shows up to step up.
There was an ambassador in every section, so I came.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right.
Happy hour.
I'm going to head over to the happy hour.
Yep.
Oh, that's a different one. Okay.
Yes.
I guess I got to go back to
Every time logging into a different account.
Right.
That's why we have, I don't know, 20 Zoom accounts. Yeah.
More than enough, right?
More than enough, yes. Yeah, we'll have to figure out how we're going to do this with the recording, but because George sent his recording to me and Bill, and I put it in one of the, I don't know, one of the chats or texts. Because right now they want to put in the link, you know, the one that you automatically get from Zoom, to put that in a Google document. Yeah, that'll work for today. But those need to go, and some of these accounts are either not ours or those are the ones that we will end. So it needs to be, but we will have next week to think about that.
All right, I'm going to shut this down.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. This one is still evidently hooked up. And I can't even do Control-Alt-Delete.
It seems like this must be the same as the version that the happy hour is going on in. I don't know. It tells me, it looks like I'm the boss now. When I went to close it, it said, do you want to close it for everybody? Well, if anybody's listening, I'm going to close this off because somehow or another I ended up being the boss of the meeting, I think. So we'll start again.